market retailers have been quick to respond to the constantly evolving trends in fashion so as to stay relevant. While they have made fashionable clothes inexpensive, their products are often poorly made to ensure that we, the consumers, are constantly demanding newer outfits. The natural resources such as water and oil that are exhausted, and the greenhouse gas emissions are also part and parcel of the clothes that most of us are wearing today. According to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, the textile production alone uses about 93 billion cubic meters of water annually, which is equivalent to 37 million Olympic swimming pools. Isn't that crazy? But that's not it. BBC reports that annually, the fashion industry alone is responsible for 8 to 10% of global emissions, consumes about 342 million barrels of oil each year, and uses 43 million tons of chemicals. So, are there any alternative ways for meeting the present day demand while reducing the impact on the environment? What can the fashion industry do about this? Can consumers make a difference? Let's hear it from Ashwin Tyagarajan. Ashwin, it's so good to have you here with us at TEDxNapierBridge Countdown 2023. But before we get any further, I can't help but start from where you left off 2 years ago. You seem to go missing from social media, you seem to have taken a break from work as well during this period. Tell us what happened and what were you up to during this hiatus?
Yes, Reethu. I've been on a break or a sabbatical for the past 1.5, 2 years now. I don't want to get into what affected this hiatus because that's a story for another show altogether. But I do want to talk about how this hiatus helped shed some light on some important aspects of my life and my work. Being an occasion wear designer or a bridal designer, I've often been stuck in a moral dilemma of whether to see couture as an artistic license to do or create what I wanted to, with little care about the consequences it had on the environment, or to limit my artistic hunger and do the right thing, compromising on my thirst for grandeur. This hiatus, where I was more connected with nature than I could be in a bustling city like Chennai, I realized that it need not be one or the other, it can be both. For nature is the epitome of grandeur, isn't it? Anything that is comes from this earth, you, me, an idea that comes out of us, it all tracks down to our very earth. So I want to continuously and consciously pay homage to this earth that makes us. I've dived deep into age old crafts that are naturally sustainable, and I'm working on a few collections that help these crafts take center stage. I'm very excited and I'll hopefully launch them soon.
Wonderful. Now, speaking of handicrafts, I'm not sure how many of our delegates are aware, but most of the traditional Indian crafts are generally sustainable in nature. So, could you help us understand, Ashwin, firstly, what are these techniques, how are they sustainable, and how close do you think is the fashion industry to reviving these techniques?
Yes, many of the ancient crafts that we practice in India are naturally sustainable. Of course, we do not have the time to delve into detail into the step by step processes of these crafts because they're extensive. But I would like to mention a few. Ajrak, for instance, is a resistant technique, and it employs various natural elements from herbs to vegetable dyes and minerals to create the beautiful prints that we do see and wear, like this one, for instance. Bark print is another craft that also uses vegetable dyes to print red and black colors on a white background. This printed fabric is then washed in the Bark River, as you can see in the image, and hence it gets the name Bark. And the composition of the river is just right to process the vegetable dyes, and the copper content gives a beautiful luster to the print. In Kalamkari, as we all know and celebrate, both the Machilipatnam style and the Kalahasti style use only natural elements like buffalo milk, alum solution, madder, charcoal sticks, or bamboo sticks, like you can see in this image, which is also kalam, from where we get the word kalamkari. All these crafts are beautiful and they're elaborate processes. And once you get to know them, you can't help but fall utterly in love with these crafts. And in order to answer your question of how close the fashion industry is in reviving these techniques, well, the good thing is, Ritu, that there has always been an audience for sustainable crafts. But we do live in a world where we want things now and we want things right now. So I do not know how many of us have the patience to see these crafts fully realize, but I'm certainly hopeful. As a community, I hope we can carry these crafts forward.
Yes. On that note, Ashwin, Any talk of crafts is incomplete without discussing the contribution of artisans who work in anonymity for decades. So, are designers, including yourself, Ashwin, who work with these artisans, conscious about their economic upliftment? And how has the work you've done with these fabrics helped the artisans and their communities do better for themselves?
Yes, you're very right. And artisans are the backbone of this industry, sustainable or otherwise. I don't think we could exist without them. Let's just get that out of the way first. In talking about their economic upliftment, it's very important to understand what they do and what role they play in sustaining this industry. While giving them work, employing them, and compensating them rightly for it is not non-negotiable. Giving them due credit where they deserve it, and finding out what they need in order to sustain this craft will definitely uplift them on a personal level. Rather than treating them as mere vendors, meeting them in person and making a collaboration with them is very, very important and makes them feel seen and heard as well. I myself try to do that to my best abilities. We recently contacted a Sungudi artist in Madurai who informed us that there aren't enough craftsmen to carry out the beautiful craft that is Sungudi. And he requested us to send a few people there to learn the craft so that they can help sustain the craft. That's something that I've been considering because it'll be worthwhile in order to, one, sustain the art form and also help in their economic upliftment.
Yes, well, that's a great initiative. But I'm also curious about the process of designers envisioning a sustainable collection. So, when you work with these crafts, for instance, does it ever come with limitations? Did you ever have to reimagine your design language in order to accommodate these methods of sustainability?
I obviously cannot speak for all designers, but for me, I've never seen it as a limitation, and I'll tell you why. For me, a source of inspiration could never be a limitation. Let me elaborate. Say any sustainable craft, for instance, is beautiful in itself. The prints that they offer, the colors that they provide, it's a sea of possibilities, right? And it gives me a vision. Something that gives me a vision could never be a limitation. And this patchwork skirt that you see on the screen right now, I created out of scraps that were left out of making lehengas and sherwanis. In creating this, these scrap fabrics served as the inspiration to create this beautiful garment. It would be blasphemy to call it a limitation, wouldn't it be? But on a larger perspective, though, I understand how it can be limiting because sustainable crafts do take time and does take money. And a lot of designers, when we start out, we just want to make pretty clothes. I myself started out like that. I was an engineer who just wanted to make pretty clothes. It took me all this time to realize the impact of what I do. But you know what they say, better late than never.
But the common perception about sustainable fashion is that it often adopts a very minimal and monotonous look. We're talking long, flowy garments, relaxed fits and silhouettes, earthy colors and prints. So you can't help but wonder if it isn't as fashionable as people perceive fashion to be. So, how does a designer change that perception?
Yes, a lot of sustainable brands do adopt a very loose boho and roby sort of aesthetic, and that's great. But what I want to do is create sustainable fashion that celebrates your figure, and I want the wearer not only to feel good about doing the right thing by choosing a sustainable brand, but also feel fabulous while wearing it. So this is Ajrak print that we created for a brand that sells in the US called Pali. And we wanted to present it in a different light. We created quad sets, short shorts, dolphin shorts, and this patchwork jacket that we created out of the scrap fabrics that were left out, which was definitely a hit. So yeah, I'm actually wearing all recycled cotton, and I think I look fabulous.
Definitely, you look great. Yes. Now, speaking of your collection on sustainable fashion, I just want to show our audience some pictures.
Yeah.
So, it was a collection you designed that went up later on a platform that put these clothes out on rent. So, could you tell us the story here?
Definitely. So, this online platform that rents designer clothing approached us and placed a sizable order for Banarasi lehengas. So, after making all these Banarasi lehengas, there was a lot of scrap fabric left. After making 44 lehengas, you can imagine the amount of scrap fabric left. So, I sat there looking at this pile of resplendent Banarasi scraps, and I told myself, I'm not going to waste these scraps. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. So, I came up with these multi-hued line of clothes. These weren't obviously ethnic because I wasn't going to make another lehenga after just finishing 54 lehengas. So the collection showcased contemporary silhouettes that merged beautifully with the traditional sensibilities of the Banarasi weave. There were corsets, there were blazers, there were midi skirts, there were bralettes. It was a glorious collection. It was received very well as well. In fact, Maitreyi from Never Have I Ever chose to wear this to one of the big events in LA as well. Couldn't be happier. Also, there was a lot of dead stock fabric after creating that huge collection of lehengas, out of which I made another collection called Leila, which again amalgamates modern cuts with traditional fabrics. And the beauty about sustainable or upcycling garments is that it adds a story to the garment. It makes it come alive. It adds value to your wardrobe and to the earth. You tell me, would you rather wear something that has a story to it or a mass-produced sweatshirt?
I would definitely wear the former, certainly.
Right choice. I hope more people make choices like you.
But fast fashion has us all constantly buying clothes as styles, seasons, and collections change. No one has the time to think about the history of a garment, just like you said. So, is there a way out of this trend?
Yeah, for starters, we can all delete the numerous shopping apps that we have installed on our phones. Retail therapy is definitely a scam, Ritu, I'll tell you that. I know the numerous notification that we get on our phones about deals isn't going to make it easy, but has to be done. And consumer awareness is the only way forward. You know, when we buy a garment, we ask ourselves so many questions. Does this fit me well? Does this color pop on me? Is this within my budget? Help me out here.
Does this color look good on me? The
Yeah.
fit, I would say, probably.
Exactly. And all fair questions, right? But I would like you to just add one more question to that list. Is this garment really needed? Do I really need this product? Because very often we don't. We've just gotten into this habit of hoarding clothes and filling our wardrobes with the useless items. Like, how many of us have clothes hanging in our wardrobe that we hardly ever wear or never wear? I'm sure you have some yourself.
Definitely.
So this hoarding habit needs to stop. And also there's another side to consumer awareness as well, where you ask a different set of questions. Where is this product coming from? What is it made of? Who is this benefiting and how is it benefiting? By making just this purchase, how am I impacting the environment? These are all vital questions that we need to ask if we want a better tomorrow, for sure.
Yes, although I agree that consumer consciousness is a defining factor, Ashwin, I really feel that it trickles down to the cost for most of us here. So, for people like me who are aware, the price of a garment deters us from choosing sustainable fashion. So, is there a way to make cheap yet sustainable clothes?
I know that's a question on a lot of people's minds. But before we get into how to make sustainable fashion cheap, I want to address why sustainable crafts cost the amount it costs. You know, like I answered in previous questions, these crafts are extensive, elaborate processes. And these processes are not carried out by bots or automations or machines. They are carried out by hands, by human beings who have dedicated their lives in sustaining this craft. There is so much value in each piece that they create. So owning one piece of this craft in your wardrobe would add so much more value to your wardrobe and to the earth, and will also help in economic upliftment of these artisans who've dedicated their life for this craft. And when you get something made, always ask for sustainable fabric options. There are so many options. Sustainable brands may be expensive, but sustainable fabrics aren't. So always do your research, extensive research on sustainable fashion, before deeming it unaffordable.
Okay, we certainly will do that going forward. But give us some hacks, if you will. I'm pretty sure all of us here love DIYs and hacks. So, how do we work on all those clothes that we've already got and yet keep things new, fresh, and sustainable?
There are so many ways. Saying no to buying new clothes is really saying yes to using your existing wardrobe to its full potential. You know, you're bored of wearing something, find new ways to wear it. Take a pair of scissors to it, cut up the sleeves, make the top cropped, or wear the skirt as a top. You know, there are so many influencers out there showing you how to wear one thing as another. Try some of them and maybe they'll work in your favor, and you'll see a sea of possibilities with your existing wardrobe. Shared wardrobe and thrifting is also a great idea. In fact, I share my wardrobe with my sister, or she shares hers with me. This is a jumpsuit that she wore several years ago, and then I wore this recently, and I think I wear it well. It's fun as well. That's another skirt that she wore ages ago that I decided to cut it up, make it shorter, and wear it for another event. So yeah. Also, when you get something tailored, always ask for the trims. Make something cute out of it. A little cute little scrunchie or a headband, or maybe a bow tie for your boyfriend. Come on, rack that creative side of your brain that's going dormant in this meta world, right? And more than all of this, Ritu, I definitely want to point out, growing up in cities, we've been torn far apart from nature. When was the last time you say you hugged a tree or spoke to a plant or observed a bird perched on a tree doing its thing or stared at a flower?
Definitely, it's been a while.
Yeah, so we live in concrete jungles where one balcony opens to another balcony, one terrace overlooks into another terrace. We're able to give time for nature only during our vacation and take selfies with it. It's high time we realize that we aren't apart from nature, we're very much a part of it because we're all made of this very earth. We are but a morsel of earth. So, if we see that truth, I believe the right action will follow. And we hope to look at not just consuming sustainably, but living sustainably as well.
Well said, Ashwin. So, what's exciting for me from this conversation is that we can all bring about a change. For a start, like you've said, we could all shop from sustainable fashion brands so as to help realign the economics of demand and supply to make sustainable fashion inexpensive. Then there's an option of making do with what you and I already own, giving it a brand new look, and reducing consumption by sharing wardrobes. On that note, Ashwin, great chatting with you here at TEDxNapierBridge Countdown 2023. Here's hoping we can all look forward to a more sustainable future in fashion.